friends, welcome to Embracing Your Season. I'm your host, Paige Klingenpeel. Today's episode is a meaningful one because it is actually our final episode of Embracing Your Season. And I wanted to take time to reflect and celebrate what God has done through this venue and what God has ultimately been stirring in my heart in the season to come. But I would love to have this conversation with Mike Segovia, my producer, because we started together and we are going to end this together. Thanks for joining me, Mike.
Absolutely, Paige. This is a real special episode, kind of a sad one for me
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
But man, we've got a lot of great things going on in this particular episode. And so before we talk about what's next, Paige, I want to take us back to the beginning. Um,
Yeah.
it's crazy. 2 years, right? It just
Yeah. two
like a little over
years.
2 years. And how did embracing your season even get started? Tell us, Paige.
Yeah, gosh. I may have mentioned it like on and off in the last couple of years, but I mean, it's truly like a miraculous experience when I look back on it. So, Dr. Jim Burns and I, we had met at, I believe it was like a youth specialties event out in California. And actually, I think there was one on the East Coast as well. Anyways, so I had just gotten off a stage. I was representing Remedy Live in front of 3,000 people, by the way. Oh
Wow.
my gosh. I was so nervous. It was the biggest venue I've ever done. And it was wonderful. So I was coming down from the adrenaline high and I was joining Dr. Burns's seminar, which was talking about teens. And of course, that's my area of specialty. So I want to learn from the best. And so as I was walking up the steps, he was walking up at the same time and we just like kept making eye contact and it was just this cool kind of connection. And we ended up talking afterwards. And again, I was working at Remedy Live, which is an amazing ministry. We've actually interviewed Clinton Faupel on this show as well. Highly
Mhm.
recommend that out. So I had him on my show, Dr. Jim Burns, and we just developed a friendship. But that was like in 2013. So 2013, 2014, I trying to think like I was like, which kid did I just have? Because that's how I navigate the time in my life
Oh,
is like,
yeah.
which kid was I pregnant
Yeah,
with? Which kid did I just have?
absolutely.
All of that. So, I mean, it had been years. And I mean, we had spent a long time not connecting. And then one day, 2 years ago, I got a phone call. I can't remember if it started with an email and then a phone call. But when you see the name Jim Burns pop up on your phone, let me tell you, friends, I mean, this is a huge deal. And I was like, what in the world? And so he brought the idea that they wanted to bring in a female voice to the podcast world under the umbrella of HomeWord. He said, I want you to make it your own. I want you to bring in your guests. I love the personality you bring and your love for Jesus. So just let's make this happen. And so I said, okay, like I did pray about it. I was like, I don't know, am I in this season? Do I need this extra work right now? And no, the Lord was like, yeah, absolutely go for it.
Mm.
And then I met my producer at PFC, Mike Segovia, and I was like, oh my gosh, instant best friend.
Oh, yeah,
And
totally.
we yeah, went from there. It was so cool. It was great.
Awesome. So, from your perspective, what did embracing your season become then over time?
Mm. Yeah, because it's one of those things when you are given this opportunity. So I'm still under the umbrella of HomeWord and Dr. Jim Burns. I'm telling you, but this man, I don't know if I could truly explain like the magnitude that he has been known and has he grown
Yeah.
into from youth ministries to marriages. I mean, transformational in people's lives. So this man is like I get to be under and represent his organization. So I was very hesitant in the beginning of like, I don't want to embarrass him. I don't want him to regret his choice, knowing that I'm not always the most filtered and, polished. And so I
Right.
worked really hard in the beginning to bring on the right guests to make sure that I was representing Homeward well. But as it progressed, the Lord reminded me, he was like, no, your mission has always been to equip families, to encourage them, to bring them humor and health and wholeness. And I was like, that's right. That's why I'm doing this. This is the Lord. Jim is is just the venue of which I'm given this opportunity. And so it turned into something really beautiful. I mean, the times that I had my daughter on, or I wrote up a whole list. I gave it to you, Mike, in the beginning of like
Yeah.
who I would love to see on this show, people that I have read and learned from, and like Dr. Curt Thompson, like,
Oh, yeah.
oh my gosh, that dude, I remember I couldn't even like film because I was just staring at him, just like absorbing the wisdom the
Yeah.
whole time. Like
Right.
I was the creeper on the other side, be like, oh my gosh, tell me more, you know? So it's
Right.
like, wow, it turned into something so beautiful. And I was just, yeah, so thankful that I got the opportunity.
Awesome. So, okay, we're talking about some of those memories. Let's kind of
Yeah.
continue with some of those favorite moments and funniest,
We got
stories
a
from
few.
we got a few. So, I know you mentioned your daughter. That was amazing. They got such
Yes.
great, incredible numbers. I loved it, and I'm bummed because I wanted to get your other daughter on there, but maybe that's okay that you didn't because
I would be a little more worried, like, that was the thing about having Haley on, is that she is my firstborn, and she,
right.
like, lives up to all the firstborns, so it's like, she understands that her words have power and they would have consequences and
Mm.
that she has the power to embarrass me. My second-born, which is my other daughter, she's a lot like me, and literally, you never know what's gonna come out of her mouth, and it's hilarious, but it's also like, "Babe, don't shame me in front of the entire world," you know what I
Oh
mean?
my
So,
gosh.
maybe it was the best that no one knew the inner
Well,
workings
I'm sad I
of
didn't have
Sophia.
I'm sad I didn't have, but you know what? I have my own podcast, so I might have to have you and Sophia on.
Ooh, I'm telling you, that will be one that will go viral because that girl, she is hilarious, there's no doubt. She's great.
That'll be one for the ages. What about some other ones that were awesome and, some of your funniest moments from the show?
Yeah, gosh. I mean, honestly, I think what happens like because you and I like the way that this works is so it's very similar to like Zoom. So I have my square of my face and then I have the square of the individual I'm interviewing and then when you and I are chatting I see your square and then post session whatever. So when we're
Right.
on the front end and the back end, I can see your face. And
Yeah.
my face is super expressive. And
Yes.
so thankfully I have a video of what my face is, so I can, I can make sure it looks appropriate because there are times I don't understand it, but there are times in my confusion or just like, where did that come from? Like, my face does some funky things. So, my favorite part is when you and I are are like, "Did that really just happen?" Like, post-session, because we are blessed to have amazing guests on this
Yes.
show, but there are some times where we can only get so much information pre-show about them. So we have an amazing booking producer, Suzette, who does all this awesome work, and
Yeah.
she brings on these people that are speaking to some of the issues I feel like our listeners really need, right? And so sometimes we'll have people on where you and I are like, is that real? Is that her real personality, or does he really think like does he think people want to hear that? Like,
Yeah.
and you and I post, and it's not like I hope my heart hopefully is not disrespectful, but at the same time, I'm like, how has someone not been honest with that individual? Like the one that comes to mind is an individual that initially out of the gate, it was just a chaotic interview. There was like
Mhm.
nothing set up. We were
Mhm.
trying to be patient with timing and we have tolerance for that. I
Oh,
mean, we
yeah.
have real world too.
Sure.
But then when the statement came out of this individual's mouth of, "I am so glad you brought me on this show because you need to hear what I have to say." Like, with that attitude, like, no humility at all. I was just
Yeah.
like, "Oh, no." I already had doubts when I read backgrounds and some of the questions they wanted us to prompt, and then when they said that, I was like, "Oh, I don't think so." But then I was like, "Suzette put so much work into this, so we will make this happen." And I prayed, "Lord, you can take beauty from ashes, so let it be." So, yeah, and then the other thing too, it's like post interview when I'm doing kind of my takeaways and stuff
Yeah.
like that, I could be so smooth during
Right.
the interview, but man alive, and I know you have stories, Mike, where like the words that come out of my mouth aren't even English. Like it is gibberish sometimes, or
Yes.
run on sentences. Like I don't know what happens. Like my brain just doesn't work anymore.
That's so funny. I could remember when we first, started, and you would do those, the takeaways in the open,
Yeah.
and then I go, "Okay, that was great." Um,
I knew you were so patient with me. Now we're just like, "Paige, come on. You gotta pull it together." In the beginning, you were so kind. Thank you.
That was really great. However,
Oh, man.
do
Yeah,
you
I'm
remember that? And
curious
you
what you thought of me in the begining because I was just a hot mess on those hot takes.
no, 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 I thought you were good. I just had to kinda reel you in a little bit. But I remember doing that. "Okay, that was great." Then you just start busting up, and you go,
Yes.
"Okay, just give it to me."
I know, because that's a love language for me. Please be honest. How awful was it? Like, don't sugarcoat.
"'Kay, 'kay,
Oh.
'kay, Paige, that was great. However, I got a few things."
Here's another thing that I actually realized as well. Maybe you picked up on this, Mike, but
Yeah.
and I think I might do this in counseling as well, using the word interesting.
Yeah.
So sometimes like that, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like
Yes.
it's such a multifaceted word, but it's
Yeah.
such a filler for
Yeah.
me because there's
Interesting.
sometimes when I'm like, "Interesting," and I'm thinking to myself like, "That is so unhealthy," or, "I would never recommend that," or, "I so wanna debate
Ugh.
right now, but this is not the venue." And then maybe 5% of the time, it is actually interesting. And
Right.
so it's like, so maybe listeners, that's your cue to go back
That's
in
your
and
cue to
listen to all the podcasts and say, "How many
that's right.
times did I say interesting?"
Interesting, right. Or remember the other word we talked about is that you said was the word "like."
Oh, I say like, or what is another one? My friends tell me this all the time. I might not do it on here too, but I always go, "Right?"
No, no,
Like,
you no, you do.
do I? We all have our stuff though, don't we?
We do.
We do. We have our
Absolutely.
filler words for
Um,
sure.
no, so, some great reflections as I think back. Um,
Yeah.
about a year and a half ago, we went to Nashville to the AACC World
Mm,
Conference. It was 2024, and,
yeah.
our whole job was there was to get interviews, as many as we can, and so, along with our other producer, Ariel, the 3 of us went, and we embarked on, no, I'm sorry, it was Dallas. Dallas, right?
It
It
was
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 Dallas.
it? Yeah,
Yes,
it
it was
was
Dallas,
Dallas.
and that was amazing. We had
Yeah,
such
it
a
was
good
fun.
time. We're getting interviews. We didn't have necessarily any places booked to record, so we're just
Mm.
finding places. Paige is carrying chairs, and we're setting up tables on the fly, and
Oh,
Paige
remember that dude who talked so loud that it was like I mean, he was like 100 feet away and he was like screaming his conversation. I wanted to be like, "Did you wanna be a part of this? Like, come on over here because you apparently have a lot of opinions."
folks, people, listen. In the middle of an interview, Paige is going, excuse me, can you lower it down?
I
We're doing an
did.
interview
Oh
here."
gosh.
And,
That
yeah,
was so kind though.
yeah, that so that was great. We got some great interviews there. Of course, our own shows, speaking about some of my favorite
Yes,
moments,
gosh, those
some
were fun.
some of our great topics, and talking about, of course, parenting and, like, the
Mhm.
holiday season, which we just did one
Yep.
recently, and that so those oh, I just love those. I think you may have done a couple solo shows, and then before you know it,
Mhm.
you were dragging me on with you, and you're
I was,
saying
because I don't like hearing myself talk the whole time. Like,
right,
who wants to hear me talk the whole time? Let's be honest. And I was like, "This is boring. I don't
right,
like hearing my own voice." So, I was like, "Mike, you and I have such great banter,
we
and
do.
you have such cool, like, stories and
Mm.
experiences that I knew would add rich and warmth to the conversation." So, I was like, "Mike, you gotta be on the show." And it worked out so beautifully. I loved it.
It did. It worked out great. And then one of my favorite interviews we did, there was many, but, you mentioned Dr. Curt Thompson, and he spoke
Mhm.
about hope and grief. In fact, it was so good, we aired it as one of the faves, and, it
Yeah.
was just fantastic. And then I saw him at, this past AACC conference, which, you weren't able to make, and, we were in line, and I said, "Hey, Dr. Thompson, you remember me, Mike Segovia?" And I mentioned you, and he goes, "Yes, of course, please tell Paige I said hello," and I could tell he meant
Ugh.
it. And so
That's the thing, man,
yeah.
like, him and Doctor Jim Burns, like,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
telling you, they are genuine people. I know
Mhm.
that they have a huge platform, but I'm telling you, they are truly Jesus to people, and that's
Mm.
what I wanna be. I want people to be like, "She is authentic, what you see is what you get, and she loves the Lord, and that's how she honors people," like, that yeah, they are awesome. They're great
Yeah,
men.
totally, they're great. So, yeah, absolutely. Paige, gosh, we've had so much fun together with the recordings,
Mhm.
our
Yeah.
our takeaways at the end, laughing kind of when people don't see us on the screen. Um,
Yeah.
what in the world led you to decide it was time to step away? We're having so much fun, Paige.
I know, gosh. It really comes down to, the better yes. I
Hmm.
know Lisa Turkers has the best yes,
Yeah.
but in my life, in my season, it was the better yes, and so over time, I just started realizing that I have been just under such a cognitive and emotional toll,
Mm,
that it honestly, it made me feel so overstimulated because
mm,
I was always just doing and being productive, and that worked in the beginning. I'm not sure it was ever healthy, let's be honest. I'm not sure it was ever healthy in the beginning, but right now, just where I was, like, it it just was not good, and here's what's fascinating is the Lord started revealing little things, like, I read this article about how even just having unread books on your nightstand creates a mental burden. So it's all the things that you have to do that you haven't done yet that leads to this tension, to this, pressure, and this heaviness in your life. Like when you walk out in the kitchen and you haven't done the dishes yet, or there's clutter in your house, or your bathroom's messy. Like all of that is a visual representation of just being overwhelmed.
hmm,
And that was kind of the status of where my heart and my soul and my body was. And I knew God was he was just asking me so gently to participate in a Sabbath. And I took my break. I took all of October off and I thought that was
yeah,
enough, but the Lord continued to remind me, "No, I'm actually asking you to reorient
mm,
and to remind you that you need to be being instead of doing." And he brought this quote to me and it was so beautiful. It's that you are the shepherd, you are not the savior. Oof.
mm,
I'm gonna say that again, folks, because again, that was a mic drop in my life.
mm,
Like, as a parent, as a spouse, as an
mm,
employee, you are a shepherd, but you are not the savior. And so that truth just it changed everything for me.
mm. I could totally understand what you're talking about in talking about the better yes, because I'm
Mm.
looking back at 2025. It's been a busy year for me. I've got a really successful business. God is blessed, and just a lot of other things going on with my son and college football and traveling, all those things. And so I really was thinking, Paige, as I was winding up 2025, there's some certain things I want to do. I'm not going to mention everything here, but there's some certain things I
Mhm.
want to do. And so I'm going to not add them. I'm actually going to peel some layers back with some other things that I'm doing and bring on some other help, delegate, if you would,
Yes,
and
good,
and
yes.
and then get on these other things that I believe the Lord has called me
Mm,
to, so I could
love that.
get to my better yes,
Mhm,
because I do
mhm.
understand and I do know what you're talking about. So how has the realization changed regarding your goals and your priorities? How has that realization changed your goals and your
Yeah.
priorities?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because it's changed like everything, right? Like one of the biggest changes is that I don't like the idea of goals. I don't think I ever have, but we have this mentality in our culture of like, it's the new year. So what goals have you set for yourself? Or in order to stay focused, you have to add structure and goals so you can reach them, right? What I realize is that what works at least better for me is that I have to focus on rhythms instead of goals. For
Mhm.
me personally, goals are very performance based. So that leads me to failure, frankly,
Yeah, yeah,
oftentimes, because
right.
I don't always maintain those.
Mhm,
Whereas rhythms is more of a space of like the ebbs and flows, and it's sustainable for me. And so in the second half of 2025, closer to when I got to that October time, celebrating the Sabbath, the break for me, I began practicing rhythms like reading more,
mhm,
weekly fasting, honoring the Sabbath, actually taking Fridays and making them my Sabbath because
mm,
I work
mm.
Sundays, obviously. So
Yeah,
Friday and Saturday are my only days off. So how can I honor that? So we had to switch up the podcast because I was doing podcasts on Fridays instead
right,
of trying to
right.
find another time. And then also just like slowing my pace. And so those are the things that I started realizing I needed at the end of 2025. And so in 2026, my plan is to continue not only those rhythms, but also what are things that I can add. And this is a prompt to all the listeners, like being considerate of what rhythms can you start implementing. For me, reducing unnecessary stimulus. So that includes less, if not completely abstain from social media. So I am taking a break, an abstinence break from social media in
I
January.
actually
I do that
saw that on social
every year.
media.
Yep. I do that every year
I saw.
because I feel like it's a good, first fruits of my
Yeah.
time,
Mhm.
to the Lord. So I'm hoping that I can actually maintain that, because I won't have to follow up as much, regarding the podcast. The problem is in the world that I work in church, a lot of people reach out to me in social media. So I still
Mm.
have to have some access, but how can I reduce that? Be
Right.
mindful of those things. I think another way to reduce unnecessary stimulus is like, what is the sound environment in my house? Be mindful. I'm in a different season than those that have toddlers and littles and things like that in their home. Now, my teenagers are loud. My environment in my house is loud, just because of the nature of just who my kids are. And I love it. Like it's good, but I need to be mindful that by a certain time in the evening, that I need to turn off my TV. Actually, what I've been doing is adding, going on YouTube and just having like a crackling fire type sound,
Mm.
and then I add classical music or worship or even the worship without words. Bethel music and a couple of other like
Mm.
elevation worship, they have albums where there are no words, but it's basically classical music. It's so
Mhm.
wonderful. And it shows
Mhm.
evidence that that has brain science. So the other thing is just like just being mindful of clutter in the home. So that's one thing. So reducing the unnecessary stimulus, things I have control over, certainly. The other one, and this one's been really hard, is blocking my schedule.
Mm.
So a lot of my job, I'm a pastor. I'm a full-time pastor. I'm also an adjunct professor at Indiana Wesleyan. So that just requires one night a week, which is great. And then some of the grading, just sporadically.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
with being a pastor, I have counseling sessions, so I use my counseling experience there. But just making sure that the blocks in my time where people can sign up for counseling sessions is just strategic. So I used to work, gosh, again, Sunday through Thursday are
Mhm.
is my work week. I used to work every night until
Mm.
almost 8 o'clock. And then because my kids have school, like I would get up at 6 a.m., do my God time, and then work until 8 o'clock every night. That's not sustainable. Like, that's
Mm.
crazy.
Mhm.
So, what I've been doing is just blocking time. So now I'm intentional to block out administrative time. On Mondays, I will be done by 5,
Mhm.
unless it is an emergency counseling session or there is something that absolutely needs to be done. The rest of that night is going to be dedicated to my kids. I am in a season where my kids honestly are in activities until like 7 p.m. anyway. So it wasn't that I was missing out on time with them as opposed to kids that, were younger when they were
Right,
in
right.
elementary and middle school and they didn't do those things. Like, oh, I would absolutely shut off my day at 5 o'clock to spend time with them. But what I noticed is that gradual fade and well, they're not back home until 7. So why do I need to be home? I can work. So silly how we do that to ourselves.
It's
So
crazy.
yeah, block out admin time, make sure that I have an evening available so when my kids get home, they can have dinner and we can spend time together. And then just making sure my heavier nights, like I'm not doing as much in the morning time. So my heavier nights are Wednesday counseling, and then I do deliverance prayer sessions, which are very heavy in the evening on Wednesday and Thursday. So my mornings, they're going to be more admin. They're going to be more relational times, meeting up with my leaders so that honestly, when I meet up with my leaders, like that's fulfilling for me, even though I'm
Mm.
pouring out to them, like they encourage me. So,
Mm.
how can you as a listener be mindful of how can you block out your days and your times so that you can fill back into yourself while also still being a good steward of what God has asked you to do? So,
Mm.
those are some of the things that I have wanted to start practicing in rhythms in 2026 is prioritizing presence over productivity.
Okay, great. So you got these new rhythms. You're getting into it.
Yeah.
So that begs the question,
Mm,
where does this podcast fit in all this, Paige?
yeah, gosh, the hard question.
Yeah.
Well, that is a bittersweet part of all of this is I have been so deeply honored to be a part of HomeWord and to contribute to what Dr. Jim Burns has done. Like absolutely. It was such an easy yes
Mhm.
to initially partner with him because that's my goal. That was always my heart is how can I equip and encourage families? Like it has never been about a platform. I don't get
Mhm.
paid for this, by the
Mhm.
way. Like this
Right.
is a weekly investment where I'm reading the books of the author. I am looking at the prep the amazing prep, mind you, that PFC
Mm.
producers have created, and then investing in the conversation. So I'm spending a lot of time, cognitive and just time-wise, physical time, and I loved it, but yet I feel like God's mission is saying, "I'm asking you to go into something else now.
Mm.
I'm asking you to lay this down." And he does it so gently. Like, honestly, I feel like he told me to do this before October. I think he
Mm.
was probably telling me, "Don't just take a Sabbath. Like, I'm asking you to lay this down, to trust me that I have a something else now." And it's not that saying that what I was doing was wrong or off or that I was being disobedient by continuing. I just think the Lord looks at our lives and says, I love that I brought you to the season, but that's what a season is. It changes and it
Mm.
moves and it transforms into something else. So walk with me instead of choosing it on your own. And I think the Lord has just been so faithful and patient with me. And finally, just through prayer and fasting and really relying on my confessional community,
Mhm.
people that I turn to ask for prayer and for wisdom, it just became clear that the better yes is transitioning out of embracing your season right now.
Mm. Um, Paige, can you share a time when God asked you to step out of comfort and
Mm.
into the unknown?
Yeah, gosh. And maybe that's why it's a little easier this time is because I do remember, I mean, this happened 6 years ago. So prior to being full time at my present church, I worked full time as a counselor. Actually, it was the most amazing job.
Yeah.
I worked inside a high school
Mhm.
uh, throughout the week, the high school and the middle school, actually. So I was at the high school 4 days a week and the middle school 1 day a week. And so I was living life with these kids. I was bringing my dog, my therapy dog. He's a certified therapy dog. So he came 3 days a week, which honestly, what is so beautiful is that
Mhm.
the kids that I knew in high school are now married with kids, and they continue to ask me about Bauer, my dog, and I'm like,
Aw,
"That's right." I mean, like, how cool is
I
that?
know.
Bauer is the coolest. He even has Instagram. He's like 700 followers. Like,
Aw.
he is a cool kid. But anyways, so this job was awesome, but in my quiet times, this was starting in the beginning of 2019, actually.
Mhm.
Um, I got up early every morning at 5 a.m. I spent my time with the Lord, and for probably 2 weeks straight, the Lord said, I want you to go and talk to the pastor at Pine Hills. His name is Mike Jury.
Mhm.
And I had met Mike once prior to this. I did not attend this church. I met Mike in a professional setting prior to this. He had no context to me at all. And I thought, well, that's weird. How do I do that? And finally, I was like, you know what? I'm going to trust the Lord. So I sent him an email and I said, I feel like the Lord has given me a vision, and I really feel like you are the one I'm supposed to discuss this with, and get wisdom from. We met up, and literally the first thing out of my mouth when I met with Mike
Mhm.
Jury was, I am not here for a job. I'm here to tell you my vision, and then you are gonna tell me why the Lord asked me to talk to you. Like, listen to the arrogance that came out of me of like,
Mhm.
"No, I don't want a job. I just wanna hear why God wanted me to talk to you." Like, oh my gosh, the Lord is so good to me. He's
Mhm.
so patient with me.
Mhm.
So, after I shared a little bit of my vision of just desiring to, um basically what I'm doing right now is just growing families, helping marriages, continue to empower parenting. He said, "Now I know you're not here for," literally his quote, "I know you're not here for a job, but everything you just said, we have a brand new opening, and I think you'd be a great fit."
Oh,
Oh my
man.
goodness. And so I knew that the Lord was possibly calling me to something new, because during my quiet time, I just heard him. We was just going over the story of Abraham, how he was called to something new. I'm calling you out. And so I remember talking to my husband, Ryan, and it was just like, I wonder if Lord's calling me to something else, that kind of thing. So he gave me a salary that I needed to meet
Mm.
in order for us to cover our bills, because he knew most likely the Lord was probably going to call me to something that probably didn't pay a whole lot.
Right.
Even with my master's degree, even
Right.
with my counseling degree, like, we just
Right.
kinda knew it. So, he gave me this line, and so I remember saying to Mike, I said, "This is what I need. Can you meet that?" And he goes, "Actually, the starting salary is $3,000 more than that." Like, come on. That
Wow.
it was in that moment, I
So
was just like,
God.
"Wow, Lord, you met
Mhm.
me there." And so then I finished out the school year in that 2019, which was wonderful, and started full-time ministry after that. And so I had never been in full-time ministry before. I do have a degree in ministry in undergrad, but I thought the Lord had called me to counseling as my ministry, and so I really never saw myself as vocational, um, in pastoral work, but, I didn't know what I was doing. So, 6 years later, I can see how the Lord had blessed me. You know, he grew me. Like, he literally took what I never saw coming and turned me into a mature believer who loves the Lord, who continues to invest in family and parenting and marriages just in a different way. And my favorite part is when I do some crisis counseling at the church and they find out that I'm a licensed therapist and they're like, "Well, how much do I owe you? Like, I want to pay you for your time as a
Mm,
counselor." I was like, "No, this is my
mm,
ministry."
mm.
So the Lord literally took what I thought in college of I counseling is my ministry and allowed it to be
Excellent,
actually
excellent, yeah.
ministerial to the people. And so
Mm,
now as he's calling me into a new thing, I trust him because I literally
mm,
upended my world of what I thought I was going to do the rest of my life to something else. And so it takes trust and it is scary. There's no doubt. But when you know the character of God, when you see that he is faithful and he's calling you to a better yes because he knows it's better for you because of the way he designed you, that should bring peace. And maybe listeners, that's where you're at. Maybe you're in a season of life right now. You're like, I know God's calling me to something, but I worry about the financial impact, or I worry about the relational impact, or I don't know if I'm gifted or talented or have, the strengths in these areas. Trust the Lord. The Lord will equip, the Lord will provide. That is what he wants to do for you
mm,
because he knows he's calling you to a better yes.
mm. And, yes, it's just it's so powerful and awesome to see what God has done with you, how much you've grown over these
Mm,
past few years, and, as we're starting to wind things down, Paige, it's been such a blessing, working with you and learning so much from, the guests, but from you, Paige, from the wisdom that you've imparted upon our guests and upon our listeners. I gotta be a part of that as being your executive producer, of this show, and so the shows that we've had together, those were amazing. Um, and just the questions that you had, you brought stuff out of me that I got a chance to really share
mhm.
some of my own stories. I do have my own
I know.
podcast as
So
well, but
good.
to bring out some stuff that I think aligned with the things that you had to say, it's just really cool that we got to chance to click together, and the numbers bared it out that people enjoyed those episodes. The times that we traveled to AACC, of course, I mentioned that was wonderful, and just getting to know
Mhm.
you. And I feel like getting to know your family too, even though maybe I've
Yeah.
said hello to them to a few daughters
Well,
over,
but we've shared stories.
yeah, on the screen, and we've shared
You've been
stories.
prayers.
It's gonna be amazing, Paige. It's been truly an honor to produce your podcast, Embracing Your Season. And everything does has its season, people. There's a time and a
Mhm.
season for everything. And so we had a good 2 year run here, and it's
Mm.
been wonderful. So thank you so much and thank you, HomeWord and Jim Burns, for entrusting me to produce your podcast with you. Um, I've learned a lot, but more than anything, I've been touched so much. You'll never know the impact you've had on my life, Paige. So thank you
Oof.
for stepping into the season of my life. I'm gonna miss you, my friend.
Okay. Well, for those that are watching on YouTube, you are seeing that I'm crying now. For those that are on audio, you may not know. I knew this would be hard, so I don't have any Kleenexes at home, so I'm
Oh
using
man.
toilet paper. It's a dual use.
Oh man. It is. It is.
Oh gosh. Mike, you have been one of the blessings for me for sure. I have so appreciated just learning more about your story and just seeing the transformative work that Jesus can do on a man's life. Like, people need to hear your story. They
Mm,
will be blessed by it. They will see, I mean, just a before and after when Jesus comes. The way that you pursue your wife, the way that you value your family, like that is just so encouraging, inspiring. And so all that you do at PFC, like, just appreciate that you went out on your own, you took that risk, and the Lord has blessed you, and I pray that
mm,
he continues to do so,
mm.
and all the producers at PFC that
Yeah.
I've gotten to know and love, Suzette and Serena and Ariel and Elizabeth, and I mean, y'all are just the best. We so appreciate you, and all those at HomeWord as well. Again, Jim, golly, you are the
Mm.
best. I appreciate you so much. But those behind the scenes, like Janelle and Elijah. Elijah's the one that does
Oh,
the
Elijah's awesome.
editing
He's the
of
best.
our YouTube.
Mhm.
I'm telling you, the man has seen the worst and best of us.
Yeah,
We'll always be like, "I'm so sorry, Elijah. Thank you so much for all that you
yeah,
do." So he
absolutely.
makes it look good, which is great. But also Cindy Ward, you are a phenomenal admin assistant. She's the one I actually became friends with. I didn't become
Mhm.
friends with Jim. I became friends with his admin, which is Cindy, and she's the best. And Kelly and so many more at HomeWord. We appreciate all that you do. And this has been a gift.
Mhm.
I'm truly honored and thankful that the Lord has brought me this opportunity and the ability to speak into the listeners' lives. So, listeners, man, like I don't think you understand that when you email me or speak to me about how an episode has impacted you, like this is why I do what I do. This is part of the reason that I am grieving. Oof. I am grieving moving on from
Mm,
this amazing opportunities because I know what it's like to feel whether it's aimless or helpless and not knowing how to address a need for my child or how to pour into my marriage. Like, I know what that's like. That's why
mm,
I seek out the books I do and listen to the podcasts I do. I know that there is value in the community that Jesus has provided in his church. And so when you come to me and you say, thank you for that episode, or that spoke
mm.
over me, like that is life giving to me. And so I appreciate all of you out there. So, as we close and our final episode, I would love to just speak a blessing over you.
Mm.
I do this in each of my Indiana Wesleyan classes, but I also do this in my deliverance prayer sessions because we have battled together, friends. We have walked this line together trying to bring Jesus's kingdom here. And so I want to just send you out with this blessing. It actually comes from Colossians chapter 1, verses 9 through 14. It's something I highly encourage you read over your kids, over your marriage, and over yourself frequently. It says, I continually ask God to fill you with the knowledge of his will through all the wisdom and understanding that the Spirit gives, so that you may live a life worthy of the Lord and please him in every way, bearing fruit in every good work, growing in the knowledge of God, being strengthened with his power according to his glorious might, so that you may have great endurance and patience, and giving joyful thanks to the Father who has qualified you to share in the inheritance of his holy people in the kingdom of light. For he has rescued you from the dominion of darkness and brought you into the kingdom of his Son that he loves, in whom we have redemption and forgiveness of sins. Amen.
Thank you, Paige. It's been a true blessing and a true joy. It's not goodbye for you and me because we're friends. So
That's right.
I know I'll see you again. But thanks again, Paige, for having me on and producing your show.
Absolutely. And friends, I'm so thankful for you. And I am just wishing you blessings and encouragement that you continue to live your life worthy of the calling that the Lord has put on you, that you continue to be encouraged in the parenting over your kids that God has blessed you with, that you continue to be intentional with your marriage. You pour into one another and love one another as Christ loved the church. I care for you all so very much. I'm wishing you all blessings in the new year. Be blessed.